These student loans, like the calls, are really making me regret ever going to college, considering I'm not even doing anything in my degree. But like these calls are just a reminder that I'm like, first of all, doing nothing with my life. Second of all, broke as shit. And yes, I hee hee ha ha about it here, but like it's literally not a joke. It's like embarrassing and it's like the most stressful thing. And I never want to be the person that's like driven by money. Like that's not me, but like sometimes I wish I was so I wouldn't be in the position I am in.
The actual chokehold my debt has on me as a 26-year-old with over $100,000 in student loan debt. Like so many other people, my family didn't know anything about money, anything about college. I fully applied to everything on my own, and they encouraged me to take out loans with Sally Mae, the demonic, evil student loan providers that are always pushing you to take out more.
Broke. I don't have no money saved in my bank account. I'm young and I cannot buy a house because I don't make enough money. I don't make enough money to buy a house.
I'm 22 years old and I have about $100,000 worth of debt to my name. About $52,000 is towards my car loan, while $24,000.
22 years old. Ah, man. You know, it blows my mind that this is a serious problem in America, and I don't think that women understand what they have done to themselves when they have literally just said, I want it now. I want everything and I want it now. My daughter's 18. She don't have a credit card. She'll be 19 soon and she won't have a credit card. She'll be 24 and she will still not have a credit card. You know why? Because daddy says you don't need a credit card. What a credit card does is it tells you you can have fun now and pay later. Whereas I say you earn your fun. You work hard, you save the money, and whatever money you save, that is the extent of the fun that you can have. That is how I teach my daughters, because that's how my dad taught me. Simple as that. And so, my friends, that's what we're going to get into today. Because, gentlemen, you have to understand one simple thing. If you are hooking up or getting involved with any of these ladies long term, and you decide to marry any of them, even from age 22, you are going to take on her $100,000 debt. Yeah, that's now yours, buddy. And so in this video, we're going to discuss one of the most important things about getting involved with a relationship. Getting involved with a woman that has debt. All right. Hit that like button, my friends. This is going to be a hot one. Of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Book a session if you need a session with the older man. If you need any help with anything at all, I am here for you. I am that father figure, that uncle, that mentor that will help you try to get through and navigate life. Of course, pick up my Content Creators Toolkit. Start making your own content today. Look at creating a book. Look at creating a course. Look at creating something, a YouTube channel, an Instagram channel, something that could help you make some side income to help you pay off some of these bills. And if you want ready-made content that's there for you already, definitely pick up the Digital Vault. All right? It is over 8,500 pieces of content of every single design and type that you can imagine that you will have permanently sitting there in a vault for you. All you need is a free account with Canva. That's it. Done. And you can create anything you want. Okay? So, my friends, let's get into this first video. I'm going to start off with this last one that we are listening to. Let's listen to this 22-year-old because this blows my mind. I want to know how the hell she got into this much freaking debt this early.
I'm 22 years old and I have about $100,000 worth of debt to my name. About $52,000 is towards my car loan, while...
Oh, you're 22. Why do you need a $52,000 car? That's the first thing. Your car should never have cost you any more than around $10,000 to $12,000. That was my first car. My first car, well, back then, I think it cost like $6,500. It was about 8 years old. That's what my father could afford. With my little money that I had saved up from my summer jobs, I had to save up half of it, and he gave me the other half. And that is technically how I bought my first car. All he did was he made sure that it ran well and it was safe. That's it. And it was my job to take care of it. And to me, man, that was the best thing ever. All of my friends jumped in. We had a ride. That's it. All we wanted was a ride. We didn't care how the hell it looked. We had a ride. We didn't have to depend on public transport. We didn't have to depend on other friends. We had our own ride. That's it, man. Everybody chipped in a little bit of money for gas, and that's how we got from here to there. Now, you're going to spend what? $52,000 in a car? Jesus. No. Let's hear what else she has.
Is towards my $24,000 is towards my credit cards, and about $8,000 is towards my student loan.
$24,000 on credit card and $8,000 on student loan. I would have thought it should have been the other way around. So that means that she didn't put that much thought behind her education. She put it towards consumption. Whew. Young lady, you had no guidance at all growing up. Wow.
Regarding my credit card debt, I chose debt settlement. So my balance used to be like $40,000, and they took away all interest charges, and now it's only like $24,000. So I am actively trying to avoid bankruptcy right now. I don't want to file for bankruptcy at 22 years old. I know a lot of people are advising me to do this, but I just don't think that's smart if I can actually pay it off. Debt settlement was the best option for me for several reasons. One being it's more private. It isn't on your record the way bankruptcy is. Debt settlement does negatively affect your credit score, but it is usually less severe, and the time span of it affecting your score is much shorter than bankruptcy.
This blows my mind. It just blows my mind that Americans put so much emphasis behind a credit score. Do you understand what this has done to you psychologically? If you didn't have to borrow money, why would you need a credit score? Most people don't own their homes right now, period. So if you just work, you make enough money, you buy a nice car. It don't have to be the best car. 4 or 5 years old, you're good to go. You pay for it cash. You accumulate enough cash, you buy your car. Your rent, you don't need a mortgage. So your two biggest expenses, you don't have to borrow any money on. So you don't need a credit score. You use a debit card, or you can have a credit card that the instant you buy something with it, you pay it off. I know a lot of you like to use credit cards for the points and what do you call it, airline miles, etc. You could do that, but take advantage of the credit cards. Meaning, this is what my wife does, because I don't own a credit card. She has a credit card, she puts everything on it, but she pays it off before it comes due, because it's the same spending, right? So what that does is it just accumulates a hell of a lot of points, whether it's for hotels or whether it's for airlines. She likes doing that. It's not my thing. I prefer to take my money and I put it into investments. I have developed the discipline not to want to consume anything that I cannot afford. And what that does is it makes me work harder to achieve what I'm trying to get. And it also stops me from becoming an impulse buyer, because there's nothing that I need urgently. There's stuff that I want, and I don't have a card to throw it on. I don't even keep disposable income readily available. I have to break an investment first to buy something of significance, because everything is invested. Now, I have enough liquid funds available if there's an emergency. In other words, there's a bond there that I could break in 1 or 2 days. But that's it. There's no cash that I can instantly jump on. And that's how I stay disciplined. You guys should try the same thing and also encourage your kids to do the same thing. You get caught up in this trap of, I need a good credit score. No, you don't. Because all this does is it forces your brain to think, I need to get a loan. I need to borrow money. I need to be the slave. This is how they enslave you.
Bankruptcy. Debt settlement can also reduce the amount you owe, while with bankruptcy, you might have to give up some of your assets, like your car and like your jewelry. I think that if you have a larger debt balance than I do, then yeah, bankruptcy might be the right route for you, but in my case, I am able to afford my debt settlement payments. I also feel like with the debt settlement route, you are open to future business loans or future car loans, while with a bankruptcy on your report, you're very unlikely to be open to those things.
You see, all she's talked about is Loans, 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 loans. These young people and a lot of Westerners have been programmed to think that debt is the only way to exist. Freaking scary as shit, man. I'm telling you, ladies, you have to change your mindset.
The actual chokehold my debt has on me as a 26-year-old with over 100,000 in student loan debt. Like so many other people, my family didn't know anything about money, anything about college. I fully applied to everything on my own, and they encouraged me to take out loans with Sally Mae, the demonic, evil student loan providers that are always pushing you to take out more. And I always see other people talking about this, and in the comments, there's always people like, ooh, take accountability, like, you're the one that took it out, you chose to take it out. Yeah, I did, and I can still be pissed about it. It literally, sometimes I'm like, someone take me out, like, I do not want to be alive dealing with this crippling stress on my shoulders. I just wish I was a Nepo baby, like all of my fave influencers that I watch that had no student loan debt, no rent, nothing of that, and I'm filled with envy.
No, trust me, a lot of those so-called influencers, they got massive debts as well. Because a lot of them are using their debt to show you a lifestyle. They're trying to show you a lifestyle that is definitely not being paid for by the content that they're putting out there. I know I'm a content creator. I know how much it takes to actually live a particular lifestyle. It would be fine if you were living in Philippines or Bali or one of those, or Thailand or one of those, lesser expensive places. But living in the U.S. and some of these expensive places, you got to be pulling in at least $250,000, $300,000 to front and to show the lifestyle that a lot of these so-called influencers are showing you. And this is what has influenced so many women to actually try to achieve that lifestyle with their own salary or their own debt. Most of them are just using debt to actually pay for a lifestyle.
How I got myself $23,000 into credit card debt. I started dating a guy when I was around 12 or 13, and I dated him throughout middle school, high school, and into my early 20s. I'm not going to get into the super juicy details of this relationship, but just know that it was mentally, physically, emotionally abusive. And I am so, so grateful to be out of that relationship now. But I did make some bad financial decisions whenever I broke that relationship off 3 years ago. When I was in that relationship, I was controlled a lot, and I wasn't able to hang out with my friends. I wasn't able to travel. I wasn't really able to do anything, and that kind of led into my spending problem whenever I left that relationship. So I broke it off. I started doing solo trips out the wazoo. I was doing solo trip after solo trip, and guess what? I didn't have any money. I was working as a teller in a bank. I still work in a bank, but I've since moved up positions. But I was working as a teller, so I wasn't making much. And so in turn, I was putting it all on my credit cards because I wanted to have these experiences that I felt like I had lost out on. Does that make sense? I pretty much did.
She was in a controlling relationship, abusive, mentally abusive, whatever. The bottom line is that was the man that was controlling your stupid impulses. It wasn't until you left the relationship was when you started to accumulate debt because you thought that all of these so-called fun things should have been given to you by the man. The man probably didn't have the money for that, or he realized that this wasn't necessary. He wasn't going into debt to fund your stupidity, your so-called trips, your solo trips. This man controlled your stupid impulses. And when he was no longer there, guess what happened? You end up in financial trouble. That man was good for you. And this is why I keep telling you guys, man, you have to control your woman. And I know a lot of you ladies are going to go, oh, you don't want to control. No man is going to control me. That is what happens when you don't have a man controlling you. Because men use their freaking logic and common sense. If you look at the majority of these videos, it is not men that are in debt. Women control 80%, 80% of the consumer debt in the Western Hemisphere. The majority of it is in the US, UK, and Canada. Women, not men. Men do not get into the debt at the rate that women do. And that's why, gentlemen, you have to be careful of which woman that you get involved with, because these women will drag you into a debt trap. Because if you do not investigate how much debt she has and you go and marry her, or you're involved with her as a partner, right? Guess who's going to start whining? Oh, I'm just so depressed because I'm in debt and credit card's calling me again. Oh, all right, baby, no worries, man. I got this. Don't worry. I got this month. Okay, I got it this month. Next month, same thing. Oh, I can't pay my debt. I can't. Honey, can you help me again? Okay, baby, no problem. And then all of a sudden, you realize that you're the freaking one that is upholding her debt. You're paying off for her shit, thinking that you're rescuing her. And guess what? When she's now debt-free, she's going to either rack it up again or she's going to leave your ass because you have fulfilled your job of taking her out of her pain. Just be careful, gentlemen.
I'm 23 years old and I'm in $300,000 of debt. And no, I don't plan to pay it. It used to really bother me, but I'm done letting it bother me. And before anybody says I'm lazy or to get a job, I have a job. I work 40 hours a week. Not to mention I work in healthcare, so I'm also saving lives. If a debt collector calls me, they're getting blocked. Because seriously, why would you give that much money to a 23-year-old? It's not my fault.
I can't listen to her freaking crunch on this damn thing. 23 years old, 300,000 in debt. So just imagine now, you meet her out, you're in your 30s, you're thinking, oh, well, man, she's 23, she's not bad looking, a little bit of, she's average, you can see that she's not too juicy, she got a good job, she must be somebody that's eligible for a good long-term relationship. And if you don't do your investigation because you're thinking, 23-year-old, how much debt could she possibly rack up a 23-year-old? 10,000. I can handle that. Maybe if it's 30,000, I can handle that. 300 freaking thousand. And then, of course, she's going to file for bankruptcy. So now, if it ever comes to a point where both of you want to buy a house together, guess whose credit score is screwed? So it's all going to fall on you, my brothers. This one you will not touch. Don't care how beautiful she is, how young she is, how hot she is. This is a walking nightmare. This is an irresponsible child.
I was on TikTok, my For You page, a woman popped up and she was like, me and my husband make $150,000 a year. A lot, right? Well, to me, that's a lot. And she's like, we live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm like, wait, in my head, I'm like, we live paycheck to paycheck. You make $150,000. How are you living paycheck to paycheck? And she was just saying, like, even if you make more, you still live paycheck to paycheck. And now I'm in my brain like, so we're trying to grind to make all this money, but we're still gonna live paycheck to paycheck. Like, that's what she's making me think, and I don't want to believe that's true. But is that technically true? She's like, I have a house, I have 2 cars, I do this and this with my kids, but we still live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm like, is there even a point of trying to grind? Like, is there a point where you're just like catching the money, but you still live paycheck to paycheck? Like, it's like a circle. It would be never ending. And I'm just like, for people that actually make $150,000, do you live paycheck to paycheck? Is that true? Because I don't want to believe it's true.
I don't know if women just don't think about basic math. Income, expense. Most people who make a lot of money, $150,000, they think that they're now qualified to live middle class or upper middle class, depending on where you are. And because they can buy it, they think that they should spend it. Because there's a difference between buying it and affording it. They might be able to buy it, but they can't afford it. Because in my humble opinion, if you can't pay your bills and invest some at the end of each and every single paycheck, you cannot afford it. You can't afford it. You can pay for it, but there's nothing left over after the fact. That means you cannot afford it. What we all have to learn is that, okay, if I'm making $150,000 and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I need to downgrade my lifestyle because I'm living too high above my means. I need to be able to invest at least 20% of that every single year. So $25,000 should be saved every year from that $150 income. That's how we have to learn to live our lives. But we have developed this mentality that the more I make, I have to show other people that I am successful. Because what's the sense of making all this money and I can't show other people that I'm actually successful? This is the stupidity of us. It's like this simple conundrum. If I gave you $1 million today, what would you do with it? Most women will say, oh, I'll buy this and I'll go here and I will do this and I will do that, etc. And it's all about how I can spend the money. Where the smart guy says, I would take 90% of it and invest it so that I'm getting at least a 10% return every single year. That means $100,000 coming back to you every single year. And you would live on that 100,000. Whereas the ignorant person will just think, I got to spend half of it on shit that don't bring me any return. No investments. I got to have fun. I got to travel. I got to do all of these things with the million. So they will burn through a massive amount of the million before investing the balance. Whereas a smart person will say, I'm going to invest the large majority of it and wait for a year and live off of the interest that or the return I'm getting on that money. Wait another year. Invest it all, if anything. Because before you were only surviving on freaking less than 100,000. And that's the reason why people who actually win lotteries or come into a lot of money, they lose it instantly because they have no freaking idea how to save or invest money. The $1 million is to spend in their eyes.
Why are you in a bunch of debt, 27 years old?
I spent like $10K going to Europe.
Ooh.
Yeah, for 5 weeks. And I know that it's not going to make me look good and people are going to have opinions about this, but I honestly do not regret that for a second.
Well, all right.
It gave me like a reason to want to live again, honestly.
Oh, Jesus. This is the kind of emotional bullshit that they're going to try to pump in your face. It gave me a reason to want to live again. Going to Europe. No, it didn't. You went to Europe and you saw the same shit. You probably got pumped out by some freaking guy, some French dude or some friggin' Italian dude. Same shit you could have gotten back in your hometown. What did you see that was so life-changing? The Louvre? Eiffel Tower? Ooh. Now you're $27,000 in debt and you're stressing every day. Was it really worth it? Now you're on some talk show crying, but it was worth it. No, it wasn't freaking worth it. Don't try to convince people that it was worth it. It wasn't freaking worth it. Because now you got to stress yourself out to try to freaking pay the principal plus the interest. Women love to cry to get sympathy for their stupidity. It's one of the most conniving ways of women who want to garnish your sympathy for their stupidity is to just shed a few tears. And just make that.
When I quit my job, I had 10 to 15K saved up. Like as emergency
Why'd you quit
savings.
your job?
It was a tough work environment. It was basically one of those things where the boss felt like a Bravo reality TV show. Like he was the villain, but also like super hectic and a lot going on. So I'm grateful for the experience and I'm really glad I left there. But I do try to take on freelance clients if it's worth it. But right now I'm just trying to focus on my new job. And it is a pretty new job. And so, yeah, I really like where I am.
Okay, so are you okay?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay. Your voice is shaking, so I just want to make sure.
In general, I do get shaky when I talk too. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, just as someone who is an anxious person and has my own issues with that, I want to make sure.
Thank you.
What kind of kids are we producing today? I think we're in soft times, but it's transitioning quickly right now, and we're going to hit hard times again. But the generation that we have created are just so freaking fragile. It's unreal, man.
Everyone's always like, Brenda, why are you working so hard? Why are you doing a full-time job and posting on TikTok all the dang time? It's because I have $78,327 in student loans. And you want to know how much unpaid interest I accrued in the month of February? $523.93. And this is me paying at least a minimum of $2,000 per month. Started with a little bit over $150-something thousand because I had the bright idea of going to grad school so that I can graduate in a healthcare job to help people, but not get paid enough for the amount of student loans I had to take out. Now, my fault, I went to a private university, but still, it shouldn't be this hard to pay off student loans.
Did you say not my fault that I went to a private school? Did she say that? Let me rewind that.
I had to take out. Now, my fault, I went to a private university, but
she did say, not my fault that I went to a private university. So someone forced her to go to this private university with this massive debt, going into a profession that cannot freaking pay off her loan.
Still, it shouldn't be this hard to pay off student loans. But based on my PT salary alone, there is absolutely no way that I could pay this much with just that salary alone and live a breathable, decent life. Make it make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense. I can't make that make sense.
I have $97,000 in debt and I am not filing for bankruptcy, and this makes people big mad, including Zeke.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make people mad. It's your freaking debt. You're responsible for it. You pay it off. Next.
For my evening job, whilst I tell you how I got in 20k worth of credit card debt at the age of 19 to 21. When I turned 18, I decided that I wanted to get a credit card because I wanted to build my credit, and I don't know, I just thought when you turn 18, like I'm an adult now, I'm supposed to have a credit card. I remember applying for one with my bank that I'd been with since I was 13, Barclays. I think I just applied online and I got given like a £400 limit. I think it was like the Barclays card essential, like it's just a starter one. At this time I worked at Waitrose part-time. I'd been there since I was 16. So I'd been there for 2 years. I was only working 2 days a week. I think it was like 10-hour contracts. I was managing that card fine. I was paying it off every month. I had a 0% purchase offer, I believe, for like 6 or 12 months. Then because I was managing the card well, I started getting offers in the post for new credit cards.
Yeah. This is the shitty part. This is something that you all have to watch out for, my friends. Once you get one credit card and you're doing well at paying it off, they're going to slowly try to start ramping up the amount of money that you can borrow from them because you are a responsible borrower. But listen, they aren't trying to reward you because you're good. They're trying to suck you in deeper because credit card companies don't make money when you pay your repayment in full and on time. They don't make any interest from you. So they're cursing. They're going, oh, shit. They actually call people who pay their credit card bills on time or before time and before the interest kicks in. They call us deadbeats. They don't like us. Those responsible individuals that pay their credit card off, they don't like us. So what they do is, let me feed this guy some more money. Let's see if we could hook him in with more credit. But this is what happened with her. So they extend the freaking credit. You, ladies, you think that, oh, they're rewarding you because you're so good. No, they're not rewarding you. They're sucking you in because they know the more you borrow, it's going to get to a point where you can no longer pay it back on time. They know that. This is how the game is played. So let's hear how far she got sucked in.
And I started applying for them because I was like, wow, my credit score's doing really well. Let me just apply for another credit card. What happened was I started accepting these new cards and I basically was paying them back all fine. And then I basically went through a really, really crappy breakup with my ex-boyfriend.
And there we go. That's how we got her. They know that people will either come across some bad time, some hard time. They know that every one of these women are going to come across, and men, by the way, let me stick to both sexes. It's inevitable that there will be an accident. There will be an emotional point. There will be some point where some company is going to grab your interest with some shiny object that you need right away. They know they're going to get you. And look, we got the money that you can get it instantly. They know. And all of a sudden, boom, they got her. And just so that you know, her initial credit card company will sell her contact information to other credit card companies or parent companies, and her credit score is always registered nationally, so they'll know that she's a good freaking payer. So they will try to get her to borrow from different companies as well until somebody suck you in enough so that you can overextend yourself. It's an insidious game, my friends.
And I just started spending recklessly. I wouldn't just blame it on the breakup. I had bad spending habits and have done from a very young age. And I feel like it's a response to when you don't grow up with money and then you suddenly have all this money, and I did not know what to do with it.
She did not have a lot of money. And this is another way that you have to stop thinking. Just because you have credit, it doesn't mean that you have money. It just means that you have access to someone else's money. That's all it is. You need to shift your brain. You have access to someone else's money, but it comes at a cost. That's why I don't want freaking credit cards, because I don't need because I don't want access to somebody else's money.
Spending every month. And then it got to the point where all of my offers had run out. And then I had to pay the money back, but then my minimum payments were way higher than what I was earning each month, and it just got completely out of control. Barclays ended up giving me a £10,000 credit limit at one point, or 5,000, but eventually I ended up I had 8 cards in the end, which is insane. So I think I had access to, I don't know, like 25k worth of credit at the age of like 19, 20, and I just couldn't afford to do the minimum payments. The interest was stacking up. It was a very, very, very stupid and costly mistake on my behalf.
Yeah, and some poor dude that's going to come along and feel sorry for you, and he's going to start chipping in to help you out. All of a sudden, my friends, you're funding her addiction. All I'm telling you, gentlemen, please ask the questions up front before you get deeply involved with these women. All I'm asking you to do, gentlemen, is be careful when it comes to these women, especially when they're beautiful and they look high maintenance. 99% of the time, it's not their salary that is funding this so-called glamorous lifestyle. Most salaries cannot cover that. It is debt. They're in debt, and you do not have to take that on. Ask the right questions up front. The second they say they're having hard times, you just say, hey, you know, how much debt you have? And if they come out with some ridiculous number, you just say, listen, I can't take on any of that debt for you. I am trying to build something for my future, and my job is not to pay off for your bad behavior. I'm sorry. Or you can say, my job is not to pay off for irresponsible behavior, because I made sure that I kept myself disciplined. Oh, really? Of course, they're going to go on with the attitude. But, dude, you just got to freaking stay strong in these cases. You're not here to be a cleanup guy. This is no different than having a baby mama and having to take care of a child that isn't yours. It's the same thing. These women will suck you dry financially for their irresponsible behavior. So her debt and her kids should be on the same level as far as you should stay away from it. Remember that. Okay, like this video on the way out. Of course, share it with any other young men out there or other men who are going to, that you see are that is going to dive into these problems. This is a big man problem, but you have to understand that 80% of the national consumer debt is held by women. That means, my friends, a massive percentage of women out there are in debt. It's not your job to bail her out. Subscribe, book a session if you need any help, my friends. Pick up my digital products, and of course, support the petition for mandatory paternity tests on birth before the man should have his name placed on a birth certificate. Until tomorrow, remember, my friends, whenever in doubt, always ask an older man. I'll see you soon. Cheers.